the Fill the Funnel podcast with Jeff Swan
and Tom Slocum.
We're here to help you crush your targets
with tactical tips and insights you can act on today.
Don't have a fancy tech stack, a big budget, or even a huge team to lean on?
Well, it's time to get that solved today with FTF Fridays.
Hey everyone, Jeff here. Welcome to Fill the Funnel Fridays. I'm one of your hosts, Jeff Swan, and with my co-host and good buddy, Tom Slocum. Say what's up, Tom.
How is everybody?
Yeah, well, I'm going to answer for them. They're freaking awesome. We had a fantastic roundtable this week with our Rev League family on the topic of ghosting and what to do when you're ghosted, and really what the psychology is around that. So wanted to talk a little bit today and unpack it a little bit more, talk about what we learned, what we discussed, and really what you can do if you find yourself getting ghosted all the time. So with that said, Tom, you want to tell everybody what ghosting is?
Yeah. So ghosting is fun, right? We've all experienced it in some way or another. And what it is really, you're in the middle of the process with somebody. Either you've scheduled a meeting, they're not showing up, you're in a proposal process, and you just can't get engagement from these people. They basically disappear. You don't know where they're at. You're not getting any engagement from them in any shape or form, whether it's through video, email, calling. They're just blowing you off. So today we want to talk about, some tips that we've discovered that help with that, and, how we can engage those people in a way that brings them back into your pipeline and your funnel.
Right on. Well, let's talk about first the psychology of ghosting. So why do people actually do it? When I know I've ghosted people before, I know guilty. Obviously it's karma, but what happens a lot of times is that everybody is so overwhelmed with all of the work that they have to do, their family, their just everything going on all the time, that they only really have time and mental energy to focus on the really important stuff. So what happens is that when you book a meeting, you're an SDR, you're booking a meeting and you're super excited about it, that you got somebody to say yes. A lot of times they actually might not even be able to say no. So they might actually say yes just to get you off the phone or get you out of there. Or they might think that this is something that they want to do and then change their mind at a later date. But regardless, the reason why a lot of people ghost is that something changes between the time you're on the phone with them or you're on the email with them booking the meeting and the time they're supposed to be at the meeting. So, and the problem is that a lot of times, most times, people will still take the meeting. They'll still do what they said they were going to do. But every now and then you have people who just don't want to take part at all. So with that said, anything else you want to add to that, Tom? Like what else is the psychology behind ghosting?
Well, if you didn't know why they ghosted you, then it wouldn't be ghosting, right? Like it makes it harder to really figure out why this person ghosted you in the first place. And that's the biggest challenge. And there's just a wide range of reasons why they might stop reaching out to you. I think a lot of it is between a professional or a personal level. Or it could be just a mixture of both, right? They never had the authority to make a decision. They didn't tell you that. Was instructed by their boss to not move forward on this. Doesn't like conflict, so they're going to avoid telling you that no. I know a lot of times that's probably the biggest culprit is they just don't like to say no. So they just disappear. It's easier than handling it and addressing it, especially if you built a very successful relationship. It's hard to say no to somebody that you genuinely had a good time with, so you avoid it. Or, maybe they found some content online about your company that just wasn't flattering. Or, the biggest one is something personal happened, something in their family lives, their personal lives that have just not allowed them to get back to you. And those are just a few, and there is a ton more. But once you are able to understand that a lot of those reasons have nothing to do with you personally, then you're able to kind of overcome that a little bit more and start looking at some proactive ways to prevent the ghosting. And how do you even create a relationship that allows for ghosting not to have happen, right? To where they feel good with you, to always communicate with you, and they're not going to ghost you. So that's kind of, why I think a lot of people get ghosted, is it's just something in a professional or personal level that we're just not familiar with yet.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. I mean, when you think about it, the psychology on the other end of the spectrum, like I know what it feels like to be ghosted. When you build this great rapport, you have multiple calls with somebody, they love your solution, they're like, wow, I can't believe you're only charging this much. There's so much value there, and you've taught them a lot of things, and then all of a sudden you just don't hear from them at all for a couple weeks. And you know what? Like, to your point, a lot of the times, I mean, as a salesperson, as a BDR, that feels horrible, right? Like, you put in all this time and effort and it just sucks the life out of you. So what do you do about it? Well, first off, I'm going to say, like, to your point of a lot of times it is a personal thing. Most times when people ghost, it has nothing to do with you. So try to make sure that you don't take it to heart. Just tell yourself a story. I actually had a really good mentor one time earlier on in my career that told me, when things are going wrong, when you have a bad sales call, when your employee isn't doing what they're supposed to do, whatever, tell yourself a story and tell yourself why, what are the possible reasons why somebody's doing this, right? First, that puts your mindset at the right spot so that you're not thinking of all the negative reasons why this could happen. Oh, I screwed up on my pitch, or, our solution sucks, or blah, 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 all that stuff. You're thinking, no, it's probably some type of personal thing. It was really cold in Philadelphia, an ice storm, or Texas, they had no power for 2 weeks, whatever. There's a lot of reasons, right? So then now you put yourself in the positive mindset and you tell yourself a story. Now what do you do?
Well, I mean, with ghosting, you've got to find ways to be proactive to it, right? Again, tell yourself those stories as to not taking it personal. But, evaluate in the process where you think you might have dropped the ball that led to that ghosting, and own that. Just figure out where in the process you might have not brought in the right people into the conversation. I think a lot of times people get too involved into one contact. And then if they lose that engagement, then the deal goes down or the meeting goes because they don't have another point of contact. So for me, I always try to bring in multiple stakeholders into the conversation or into the demo that I'm setting up for, the account executives, because you always want to have a backup, because maybe that personal stuff does happen, right? You're like, okay, Jeff's busy. He's dealing with some stuff right now. But you know what? Let me go over and call Tom. Let's see what Tom's got going on. Maybe I can get some answers from him. But if you don't have that, then you're stuck until Jeff's ready to get back to you, right? Like, that's it. The deal's just kind of in limbo. And even if you were to reach out for a new contact, you're going to have to start the process all over. But if you did it from the very gate, and in your qualifying, you found out all the people that play a part in the decision process, then you have a few different avenues to avoid that ghosting. So that's one thing that I think is always a good thing to have more than one contact. And the other piece is really just finish every conversation with next step, right? Lead the person into what's going to happen next so you can avoid the ghosting. Let it be clear, remove the burden from them, and say, hey, Jeff, let's get this to you. And then in 2 days, I'll call you around this same time, and we can chat about what's next. And many times people close the call without setting up next steps. They just leave it up to, hey, I'll be in touch. Well, now you're asking to be ghosted. Like, that does nothing. And then you're giving me the option to just kind of keep, moving the conversation further and further out, versus close the call with some confidence, tell them what you expect as next steps and lead them to that. And you have a better shot of not being ghosted because you're both committed. Send that extra invite, just a placeholder that says, hey, Jeff, I'm going to call you in 2 days at 12 o'clock. I'll shoot you a placeholder, no Zoom or anything, but I hope that, we can have some time to chat. Taking that extra step builds that accountability for them and avoids the ghosting as well.
Yeah, that's awesome, Tom. Thank you. There's one thing that you mentioned there was about sending that extra email or whatever else. We talked in our roundtable about several different reasons of things that our members use. One of the things was to remind them of the reason why they booked the meeting in the first place. So if there is like a specific pain point that they need addressed. And the reason they said yes was because, hey, Tom, I want you to fix XYZ for me. Then mention that, just as a reminder, we're going to be talking next Thursday about solving XYZ for you, right? So really tying it directly to what the reason for their booking the outreach in the first place. And then another thing, a more tactical approach is that actually, to our listeners, just so you know, Tom and I are really into texting. Okay. So we're huge text fans. Yes. I used to actually work for a company of texting where we did it globally. And Tom is just a huge fan, but using it in the sales process, when you've already built that rapport, you have that relationship with somebody, then sending a reminder, a gentle reminder text the day before saying, hey, you know what? This is what we're going to be covering. Just confirming that you're still coming or whatever. So, give them that out.
I think knowing the why is where a lot of people skip, right? Like, go beyond the iceberg, right? Like, there's a tip in an iceberg that says, hey, this is their problem, but then look below the water and ask a few more questions to why that is important. And when you get that, then you drill that point home in all of your messaging with the prospect, right? And in your reminders, hey, Jeff, really looking forward to tomorrow to chat with you, and list specifics, not, oh, I'm just excited to talk to you about my product or solution and how we can help, but be specific. I want to help you, Jeff, figure out how to fill your funnel by, inbound leads through this way and this way. I think by doing so, it'll help alleviate some of the things you were talking about as far as time and such and such. Look forward to connecting with you tomorrow. And I send text reminders, but that's because you have rapport. If you've done a good job on the front end with these people, then you're not a burden. You're not an annoyance. You have a relationship, just like you would with your friend when you remind them to, hey, we got that party tomorrow at 7:00. You coming? Right? Like, you have that relationship to be able to do that. And the way you build that relationship is really find out their why and leverage it in your outreach. And just shoot them a text before or use that as a channel. But, make sure you're being very specific and concise in how you're reaching out.
Awesome. So now I think we've covered pretty well, like, why people ghost, how to prevent ghosting. So what do you do after you are ghosted? So what is a quick tip that we can talk about to say, like, to somebody who just was ghosted, what can they do to kind of maybe re-engage the prospect or, move on with their lives?
Well, I think you got to bucket stuff, right? Figure out where the ghosting is happening and how important that deal was or not. Don't take offense. When somebody ghosts you, as we mentioned at the beginning of this, it feels personal. But again, it isn't. They don't care about you. They're not doing it maliciously. In the grand scope of it, you're just a little piece of their day to day. So ideally, don't get bent out of shape on it. Don't dwell on it. Just find better way, move on to the next prospect, right? Take a deep breath in, let it out. You've done your job. You've reached out with some various, other channels, maybe shot them a video. You've tried a few different attempts to reach out, but in the day, it's time to move on. Because again, don't chase, replace. That's one of my favorite mottos in the sales world is there's a time and a place to chase people, and there's a time and a place to replace. So you just have to, figure out if you've done everything you can for that deal. And if so, then it's time to take a breath, move on, and find the next prospect and, remove the things that you did in the last one that you could be better this time around to make sure that you don't end up being ghosted.
So realistically, what I love that don't chase, replace, like that's just something that, always be filling your funnel, and a full funnel cures all wounds, right? Realistically.
Yes.
So what I'm reading from what you're saying though, is that if you want to take inventory of, like, what did you do? So what are the aspects of this process that you can control? And like we said, it's not usually about you. But there are ways that you can kind of preempt this from happening in the first place by doing really good qualification, really good reminders, that kind of stuff. But when you do get that ghost and something happens, there's lots of different ways people respond to it, some good, some bad. Morgan Ingram, I saw on his Instagram the other day, He had a little joke video about what his face looks like when somebody ghosts him, and he's going over that person's head. I tagged you in it, but
I love it.
It's funny. It is funny to say, okay, hey, it's funny to joke about it, but the reality is that sometimes you do have to engage that person. If that's a strategic account for you, that's an account that you really want and you can't really replace, then you have to really get into that account. And the only way to do that is to say, hey, I was working with this person. They said they wanted to solve this problem, that this was a priority for your company. And I just want to see if they're not engaged, is there someone else I should talk to, or is that you? And, it's a hard thing to do, and not a lot of people are comfortable going over somebody's head. And a lot of times it does actually backfire. But the fact of the matter is that if somebody's ghosting you, there's got to be a reason. And if that's a customer you want to get after, maybe do it. So I'm going to really quickly give you a tip that Morgan gave me from my comment. And he says that when you do that, when you go over their head, let that prospect know you're doing it before you do it, so that they get the chance to kind of re-engage and be part of that conversation.
Well, I think you make a great point there to round this out, right? Fall on your sword. Send an email saying, hey, I might have dropped the ball in the process with you. Is there somebody else that I can bring in that can help us move this deal along? But own it. Own your stuff. Everybody loves that all the time, because the natural reaction is to be like, oh, no, it wasn't you. It was me. I'm here and here. So using the fall on your sword method, if it is really an important deal and you just haven't got it with any of the other channels, then own it. Send that email, kind of like a breakup email in the filling the funnel in the beginning. But hey, listen, I dropped the ball here. I might have not, conveyed enough that I needed to convey to you. Give out specifics, no high level stuff. Really dive into it and say, how can we pick this deal back up? Is there something I could have done differently? And 9 out of 10 times, you're going to get somebody to respond and be willing to defend you, and then tell you exactly why they haven't pulled the trigger yet.
Well, and they're humans, right? Like if they see that you've put work into this, you put effort into this, they're going to appreciate it. And people are a lot nicer than you think. The more times you hear no and you get hung up on that kind of stuff, just know that there are humans on the other end. And usually they hang up because they're scared or something like that. But regardless, they're still human. And if you appeal to them as a human being and say, hey, I worked hard on this, I'd like to, I really think I can help you, you're good. So with that said, I've got just a minute left to give you a quick rundown of what we talked about today. So first off, 3 things: why they ghost, how to prevent it, and what to do after it happens. So first, why they ghost? Well, if you have not done a really good job of qualifying for pain, authority, or conflict, pain or authority, then it's very likely somebody might actually not want to go through and they might ghost. Or they could just have fear of conflict. They might just not want to do something. So number 2, or they might not want to cause you a ruckus or anything. Number 2, what to do about it? Well, get in the positive mindset, get out there and do it. Don't chase, replace. Love it. It's the best thing to do. And third, if all else fails, go over their head or engage other people, but do it in a positive, really solid human way. Thanks.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Fill the Funnel podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to hit subscribe on your favorite platform, give us reviews, and tell all your friends about us. Till next time, happy hunting.